we managed to both be drinking wine at the same time
We
in an
did.
evening. Cheers.
Perfect. Cheers, Kaz. I think it's perfect, kick off to essentially what I think we're going to be talking about tonight, which is kind of a little bit of reminiscing on our
The
episodes
season
thus
that
far.
was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I also just for those playing at home, I got mulled wine. We made this mulled wine a while ago. I got it out, opened it up, wasn't sure if it was okay. It's delicious. It's gone down a treat. Warmed it up a little bit, popped in a wine glass. Feels very wintry, very reflection orientated. So yeah, I'm ready to kind of nuzzle in, do a little bit of a callback episode.
Chosen a Shiraz for the evening. Shiraz if you're Australian. And that is purely because I thought you would have something red coloured and I wanted to match you on this reflective evening.
There was a time once when Kaz and I had a little thing at Cirque where we would do lobby wine. So after shows we would catch up with some of the other artistic team. We'd go down and have a little wine together and reflect. And I remember once that we named everybody in the artistic team after a wine. So yeah, I feel this is a nice little circle as well. To that end, though, I was just thinking, and before we talk about kind of reflections of our episodes thus far, I was thinking about this on the way home from work, and I guess reflecting is essentially the crux of what I think we wanted really off script to be. It's not clinical. It's not about here, look at this new thing and 5 best ways to do this. Is kind of giving us a moment to just sit and hear from other people of reflecting on their journey, and hope that would be insightful for either new graduates, people that are in that 5-6 year post doing their bachelor's, and we know that there's that attrition rate in physiotherapy. So having those moments to kind of reflect and hear from other people, or even if you're quite a fair ways through your profession, to kind of reflect back and see some of the similarities between the different physio journeys that are out there. And I think as well, we've had some changes in our career, and those moments to kind of reflect and posit what's our profession looking like, and even just the clinical demands. Like there's moments when I've had difficult times where I think I've got things wrong, or I've felt like I didn't do the right thing, or I've questioned my own competency. They're all just reflection moments. And I look back, and at the time in uni, like those situation, task, action, reflection, whatever, I always just think, oh man, they're such a pain. And now, like, I totally get it. There was a rhyme, there was a reason that you were helping people to be able to set the foundations to be able to reflect back. So it's nice to be able to come and have a bit of a look at some of our episodes that we've done thus far, some of the good stuff, and some of the things that make me feel a little like, man, I wish I had done that a bit better.
We'll get to those too. Yeah, I think definitely coming together to create this podcast, we felt it was a win-win, because even if it was that we just got some great conversations with some great physios, that would be amazing. If we picked up a few listeners along the way, or made some people feel better about the ebb and flow of their own career, then that was just the icing on the top. So it's really, as you said, it's sort of full circle. It brings us back to why we're here, to reflect, to not only say, well, what we intended to do, did we do it? But also, what were the pitfalls and the real wins along the way, and did it meet our expectations and all of that. So I've got a second wine glass here, Bowie, and I've popped some questions in it.
Yes, wonderful.
So we can draw out questions.
I've not seen any of these.
That's what Bowie loves, the off-script guy he is. So we can just pull them out one at a time whenever you're ready, Bowie, and
start it off. See what we got.
All right.
I feel like this is going to be there's a clinical question straight up.
What are the most reliable tests for the shoulder? No, I'm only kidding. Our first question is, straight in there. What did you learn about your co-host?
Oh, all right. Yeah, I guess I'll kick off there. Look, I think so. When Kaz and I met, we were working together, and Kaz was the head therapist at Alegria, and I was the therapist, and we had a great working relationship the entire time. And one of the things I had a huge amount of respect for you in the way in which you were a physio and how you were a leader as well. And I think doing these episodes has kind of had that little behind the curtain look, or a bit more of a connection on a friend side of things, which we always were, but it gives us a sense of kind of looking at the friend that you are also as a physio, and I guess some similarities. I get, when you meet your mentor and you realize, I always kind of thought you're a little bit superhuman, and so you're like, oh, you've always somebody that's more senior has the right answer. And then when you do have these conversations, you're like, oh, actually, with the uncertainty is there. And so I guess I think it's just nice to connect a bit on that we had these similar feelings around the uncertainty. Other than that, what else did I know? I think I learned first thing about your failed ballet career. So that was I guess a little bit of a tidbit. I learned about your dog Tux, who would be regularly just prior to our meetings, sitting at Kaz's feet, breathing. Very loudly that I could hear him in the background. And also, what a great name for a dog, Tux. So yes, they're the things I've learned.
Oh, that's lovely. I'll throw my 2 cents in as well, because I guess, like you said, working together, it was very clear what was the same with us, which I think is our energy and our passion, our drive to make systems more efficient and to innovate. I think that was always common between us, which made us really get along. And then we had complementary different skills, which in a tight team like you are at Cirque, it worked really well. And so I was interested to see, would we still be those same people in this podcast in a completely different setting when we're both in our home environments? And what I learnt about you, Bowie, is that you are that same person. In this context, completely
The
different
good and the
context.
bad.
No, well, to me, it's completely complementary because you're very even in your mood. You bring this, you're sort of the Hamish to my Andy. You bring this wonderful energy and you share ideas, but you're also open to receiving ideas. And so all the things I was hoping would be the same about our chemistry as a working team were all still there. And then, of course, the big icing on the cake was I got to go to your wedding this year,
Yeah.
Bowie, and meet the
I
beautiful
was,
Carrie, your wife, which was a real full circle moment because I know that leaving Cirque, one of the big things that you wanted in life was some form of stability to be able to build a relationship like that. And you'd certainly done that. So, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Lovely. Oh, what a lovely, like, kind of just warm and almost mulled wine level of
There you
question to start
go.
with. Grand. What have we got next?
Shall we
I'm
go
ready. I'm
again?
ready. Yo,
All
I'm into this
right.
game.
I'm fishing out the next question, and it is, what do you hope the listeners got out of season 1?
Yeah, that I guess it's difficult because aspirationally we just wanted, like, I guess, connecting with people and in connection with stories that are up behind the bravado of always being the best physio all the time. I think that was a real drive whenever I was there was a host in front of us and I was trying to think of questions, was to be like, okay, but let's kind of steer a little bit away from just talking about what optimal physio looks like all the time, and connect with the human. But I think mostly I hope that people got an opportunity to um, take a breath away from the rigor of clinical side of things of physio. I feel this. I don't know if every physio feels this, but there's so much out there to know all the time, and with the increasing demand of info and info accessibility and us to be almost a wealth of knowledge, it feels unattainable to be that on all the time. So hopefully we just took a little sidestep away from that fast lane and into a sense of like, yeah, okay, like reconnect with whatever the physio at home's passion is for being a physio. And I hope that just gave them a little insight into reminding them, because I wouldn't be presumptuous enough to know why everybody got into it, but like hopefully we raise that little question for people to think about their journey. Yeah.
You're exactly right. I think it's about showcasing that amazing physios are still vulnerable and human at the same time. You can be both. In fact, we all are both. So just because you feel like you don't have all the answers, it doesn't mean you're not a great physio. And I think probably the unexpected thing for me was finding in everyone the different passion that they had for it. Because I think insecurities, burnout, imposter syndrome, it can all make you think you don't feel passionate about your career anymore. But I
Yeah.
think it's really finding that passion again because we're allowed to be all of those things as well.
It's interesting because early on, when we were talking about this, I was a little worried that some of our guests might not feel comfortable coming forward when talking about imposter syndrome. And it's a fairly vulnerable thing to put yourself out there and say, yes, I'm a professional, but I also sometimes don't know what I'm talking about, or I'm really unsure of what I'm saying. But funnily enough, it became so prevalent with every guest that it was actually they were quite comfortable with doing it that I almost had a moment where I was like, oh no, are we just kind of talking too much about imposter syndrome? But I actually don't think we can talk about it enough. So, whether it's just hearing it from lots of different angles, I hope that maybe some of those like key things that just link between each of the episodes is a reinforcement of some of those messages that we're sending out there. Cool.
Completely agree.
Yeah. Before we do the next question,
Sure.
so reflections is something that I have this, little thing that I don't love, and I apologize to my co-host who has an MBA and appreciates the business leadership side of things. But whenever I go on a business like a leadership course with health, I struggle a little bit sometimes because I am very I like to say that I'm optimistically skeptical. I like to try and be open to things, but I question heavily. And so whenever somebody tries to tell me my personality profile or my leadership styles, I'm like, well, really? Is it? I don't know. That's just yeah. Anyway, so I'm a but after the last leadership day that I went on, I was like, look, I don't necessarily have to always agree with the way in which the person presented that leadership. So I don't necessarily always have to connect with what they're exactly saying or what their message is to also be able to reflect myself and in my points of view or my interpretation of that. And I think I didn't realize the value of necessarily doing that. And so the other aspect that I hope that people get from this podcast is you might not always think that we ask the best question or we touch on the right nerve or we go in the right direction. But then like the concept of sitting there and being like, oh, I wish I would have said this or I would have thought about this or they missed this thing that was said. That in itself, I think is a really cool reflective moment. And those moments are few and far between as a physio. We're so clinically focused that the benefit of those leadership days might not be walking away with your leadership profile or all those bits and pieces, but at least you've had a pause in your life and an ability to go and just kind of stop and reflect and then move forward. So again, another little thing, if the podcast helps on that drive home or to work or wherever you're listening to it, just to be like, I'm reflecting on what I would have done on my journey, then I'm happy. Then I think we've hit the nail, even if it's maybe not always asking the perfect question or the perfect thing.
Yeah, I wasn't quite sure where you were going with that, but I really get what you're saying. Maybe what our listeners get out of it is critiquing us or being cause for thinking about what's important to you or what questions you would want to know from that particular person. So
Yep.
I love that.
Yep. Cool. All right. Next question. Bring it on. You could hold it up. I could try and read it to you, so you're not always reading it.
Or I could do it in your voice.
Oh, at the end of the day, we just find out they're blank pieces of paper, and she's just asking whatever question she wants.
We're off script. Look, it's a blank piece of paper. No. Oh, this has come in a little bit early, but we'll roll with it. What are your hopes for season 2?
Cool, great question. So I think season 1 was just about like getting our feet on the ground and kind of figuring out what it maybe kind of just looks like and seeing what we could do as podcasters is something that I'm not necessarily that was never really a passion or a drive to do. I think season 2, I hope is we start looking at trying to bring a lot of joy and fun into the way in which we approach these situations. I think whilst clinical things are incredibly important obviously listening to PD and doing all these things are vital. Reflection hopefully brings the joy into what we do, and that we just help people as our job. We're caregivers, and so we can provide a little bit more care through the microphone, and a bit of joy and fun and banter and games and things like that. Just that kind of brightens your day a little bit. Plus, also integrates that into physio. Then that would be wonderful. I think it doesn't always have to be about the hardships, but also just maybe about some of the joy and the light, even through the difficulties. Yeah.
Yeah, I love
So,
that.
Kaz, what about you? Tell me about season 2.
Oh, gosh, look, I would love to start connecting with listeners more. It would be my dream to start receiving little bits of feedback, and I know the physio population is, and hopefully our listener population are amazing people and will give us considered constructive feedback, because ultimately at the end of the day, if we're not twisting and turning to appeal to what people want to hear, we just simply won't be successful. So I think it would be my dream. Obviously, we have enjoyed what we've done this season. And so our intention will be to do more of the same, but I definitely would love to be getting some guidance on what people like from it, what is beneficial for it, what would they like to see, who would they like to hear from. I think rolling along with some considered feedback would be amazing.
Yep, and I should just clarify. I don't know if we said this. So we are doing seasons here in Adult Script, and we've done 8 episodes,
Hmm.
and so our production value is very similar to HBO. That we can only afford 8 episodes at a time. No, we wanted to I guess pitch our episodes towards a couple of people, and then sit and reflect and look at what
Mm.
comes next. But I don't know. I'm excited for what might come next. And that I feel like we'll probably pivot and turn and come up with some new ideas along the way of looking at different things and trying to hopefully as you said, connect with people to just keep reaching out. And one of the things that really initiated the idea of discussing these topics was when I went to a 4th year student career day, and they were just so anxious about stuff that were like, yeah, cool, great, let's talk about it. And so that instigated that kind of the domino effect of where to what we got. So if we can connect down and find out more of what people want, then we can keep opening and broadening the conversation, which would be great. And I'm also probably going to just go on and log on now as anonymous and just start providing you some feedback, Kaz, that you're doing great.
I'll be like, Bowie, gosh, all this feedback's for me.
Yeah.
They said
great,
everything
Kaz.
you're doing is perfect.
So
I don't
wonderful.
know who's giving this feedback.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wonderful.
classic.
All right. Okay. Come on.
All right.
Next question. How many we got
Swell
left?
the glass. I put 8 in there, but we'll see how far we get. And we've done 3. So this will give us the halfway mark. Well, you'll have to speed up your answers, Bowie, if we're to get through them all.
1-word answers.
Oh my God, this is hilarious. From the scientist within. On a Likert scale, from 1, below expectations, to 5, exceeds expectations, rate your experience of season 1 of Off Script Physio.
When we just said there, everyone's going to have their own little opinions at home. I hope that we're just averaging amongst anybody that is listening above a 3 or a 4. Look, I think a 4 because it's been wonderful. It's been great. And I think that there's always room for improvement, but I think I have aspirations for us to just to grow in our skills as we learn how to podcast, and maybe learn how to dig a little deeper into guests and pull out little nuggets here and there. There's skills that we're just learning as we go through. And so hoping that I can leave a little bit of room for growth for season 2, season 3, so I can be like, go at 5. I don't want to start at 5 because then there's only one way down. So yes, what do you think, Kaz?
I would also say 4, and I didn't copy you,
Yeah, sure.
my reasoning behind that is, in terms of just personally how I enjoyed the experience, I kind of felt it would be a bit of fun and a lot of hard work. But if I'm completely honest, like 70% of it has been fun. Because it's either you and me bantering ideas in messages back and forward, long drawn out audio messages when we have random ideas. Our catch-up chats before and after recording episodes are always a hoot. And then the actual conversations are tremendous. Like, I deeply get enthralled each time we're chatting to someone. So it's definitely, the experience as a whole for me has exceeded expectations. And we even gained a few followers along the way. Thanks,
That's
Mum.
lovely.
Thanks, Dad.
No, right?
So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
been great. But as you said, a huge room for improvement. This is simply us, learning the mechanics of it all. We've got so far to grow.
Yeah, and I think we've had a lot of fun. And I think that my hope is that as we get maybe a little bit more skilled and listen back to things and figure out stuff along the way, and I guess also set an understanding to people as they come along. Because, all of our guests came on not knowing anything really about off script, and hopefully we'll get some guests coming on in the future that have listened to episodes, and we can kind of keep developing from there, so we can get a bit more breadth of how we are skill level, and so we can have even more fun with it. And yes, I guess when we were talking about all our audio messages to each other, essentially all we've done is just publish that out to everybody else. They're kind of just still audio messages, but with somebody else, and we're just thanks everybody for listening to some of those audio messages. Yeah,
exactly. We can ramble. We're building up our rambling skills. Maybe we need to streamline those a bit.
This is why we called it off script, because I was never going to stay on a script.
Yeah, exactly. All right, rapid fire. Let's get the next one out. What was the most unexpected thing about starting a podcast?
Oh, well, okay. So I probably like two things here. One, I really struggled getting ready to start the podcast with the idea of putting something out there that kind of wasn't perfect. A little tidbit is I used to run a community drumming group for 10 years, and I would record regularly like instrument rhythms so that people would have like a learning tool, and I would re-record these things 20 times because they just, if it wasn't perfect or I wasn't doing this. So I was really nervous about doing it, and I guess putting some of the podcast recordings out there, I was surprised actually afterwards how comfortable I felt with putting some of this particular information out there. I felt a little bit more connected, that essentially the authenticity of the conversations. I didn't worry so much about it being perfect. So that was a bit surprising. And I guess the other thing is too, it's a bit surprising how forthcoming some of our amazing people have been. I guess they've just kind of said, just come forward with a lot of information. We didn't have to, we didn't do any pre-setting and telling them, we want you to say this, or we're going to bring up this. And we just gave them, I guess, free reign, and people came out with some just genuine, like, really beautiful moments, and incredible stories, incredible hardships and insights into their journey, and that's been unexpectedly amazing. Like, I thought we'd get something, but I didn't. I'm quite surprised of how wonderful some of our guests have been with bringing forward themselves.
I think it shows how ready people are to speak about this, and a lot of the guests that we've interviewed have felt it a duty to do that, again, for junior physios or people having doubts. So it's amazing that we've tapped into that. I agree with you. I would say an unexpected for me. Unlike you, I am oriented towards analysis paralysis. So, of course, when we were starting a podcast, I read everything, looked up everything, researched all the everythings. And all of them said, don't get too caught up in the tech and the tools and the microphones. You have to make sure you've got the right premise for your podcast. Well, I don't think that's correct at all. Maybe it's because we just had stumbled into an amazing premise for our podcast, and it just gelled really well, and we already knew each other really well. Because the game that we've had with, well, first of all, finding the software, which has been amazing, but then microphones, and then checking audio, and then logging on and having some unknown audio issue, and then, one time your dad was chipping away at tiles in the
Right.
in the
And he was like, "I'll be
room.
quiet." I'm like, "You won't be quiet, chipping tiles away the wall behind." But he
So I think it's
tried.
important. I think the tech, of course, you've got to have a quality audio for your listeners to
Yeah.
listen to, or it's just uncomfortable.
And for anybody playing at home that did see, that's seen any of the YouTube videos, and my sister was somebody that brought this up. She was like, pretty much every episode, Ben, you've got a different background. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just out and about. And then I kept leaning into this idea, and I was like, Kaz, maybe I should just go out and like have a different background everywhere I go. And Kaz like, I don't know how that's going to go with audio. And I'm like, yeah, but I love the premise. I could be having coffee or tea somewhere. And then I had the episode with Mick, and I was out in the sticks in Armadale, and I was like, my reception's really challenging, and it's just a bit tricky. And at that point,
and
I was
you
like,
had a slight delay too, didn't you? So you were jumping in a bit late on the questions.
I know. I was like, actually, yeah, I need to have the quality stuff to be able to be present. But once you're there, if that stuff's set up, the rest has actually been surprisingly
I think that's
easy.
what gives you energy too, though. So, doing those things adds to the Bowie sauce.
So season 2, I hope I get better audio. That's what I'm hoping for. And connection. Wi-Fi.
You and I both.
Yeah. Wonderful.
All right, next one. Oh, well, we've kind of already stumbled on this. Circle back if you want to on anything. What do you want to improve for next season?
Yeah, everything all at once.
Yeah. So much, right?
Yeah.
We know that we're so new and we've got so much to learn. And I think that growth mindset serves us,
Yeah. I mean, I think sometimes we talk and we say thanks to our listeners, and we don't know necessarily all of our listeners that are out there. And we're hoping that some of this content is essentially non-dated. It's there for people as they graduate, whether it's this year, next year, or otherwise, because they're just important conversations. But I'm very, very appreciative of anybody that is having listened to us, and I hope that over time we improve what we do so we can kind of deliver things to listeners. Because essentially, again, like our point of connecting is also about community and physio community, and both you and I think as well are quite positive around the physiotherapy community. It was really lovely early on when our first episode with Kieran, and he talked particularly around that kind of how he sees that positivity and how much value we have to have as physios. And I definitely had loads and loads of moments of feeling I guess inadequacy when I missed something that I'm like, I should have known that, like I should have been better at that, or I should have, and like it hasn't been of any huge detriment and yet, but I work in the emergency department, and so I get those things can be overwhelming, but we do add a lot of value, and we do it is important for us to have, like, I guess, a community around us, because it can feel very solo and isolating sometimes as a physio. So I hope we get better at building and supporting this community of people that do find value in what we're talking about and do feel a sense of connection. So lots of things to improve. I kind of really went off script there.
Social media is a big one for us both. We need to hold each other accountable more for that. And I think Mick, last guest of this season, was really grounding and inspirational in that you've got to use the driver of wanting to help people and your duty of care to make you have that presence on social media. I think we're both wary of coming across the wrong way, because it's so deeply important to us both that we're authentic and that our aim in what we're doing on the podcast is seen that way. But the reality is we can't reach more people unless we're more present on social media. So I think we can I give us a B- on social media. We can do a lot better.
Yes. I think, look, I'm going to sprinkle something a little forward here, just so for those getting to know us, I guess. Kaz and I used to do this little thing when we were at Cirque, where we would have little ideas of how to help artists or how to change, mental health and things, and we'd always just have this little sprinkling moment, like we're just planning ideas. I'm just going to plant this seed of something that I would love to come back to and talk to in a future episode. Is the difficulty with social media, essentially, and I'm sure I'm not alone here, but the positives, sure, like we need to put ourselves out there, and we can, and there's lots of positives of putting this content out there and connecting with people. But I guess the other challenge with that is the intensity of being on social media. I can find that very, very difficult at times with the amount of stuff that's not just negative information, but just the pure content. Like I'll go on and I'm just seeing paper after paper after paper. And in the start of my PhD, I feel very much an obligation to read everything. So social media can be overwhelming with that. But I think it would be great to kind of come back and discuss that, because I think that's just such a huge topic. So yes, let's sprinkle that one there. Something for us to improve on, look forward to, and talk about.
And as the corporates like to say, we'll pop a pin in that one.
Yes, exactly.
Come back to it later. Love that. All right, 2 left, Bowie.
Great.
Our second last question is, what guest comment or comments rewired your brain chemistry?
I'm going to let you go first with this one. Give me a time to think.
I will go first because it does come to mind. And I want to say, if any of our guests are listening, oh my God, literally every single one of you was amazing. And I had a brain chemistry altering moment through every conversation that we had. But I think the one that stood out for me was The Little Gerontologist in All of Us by Tari Gibson, for going into a conversation about a specialty that I thought was quite niche and quite removed from my realm of experience. She had a beautiful way of making it applicable to everyone and just was a remarkable storyteller. So I really came away from that conversation looking at not only gerontology, but how to unite physios as a whole in our global skill set. That's what Tari did for me.
I think one of the early episodes we had with Eric was really just fascinating. He's such a inspirational, innovative person and some of the ways in which he kind of almost had self-care in the innovation that he was undertaking. He was trying to develop new concepts and new videos and putting stuff out there, and I really related to that at the time, and I still do, because I see that nervousness of putting things out there. And when he kind of had these just little moments of saying, look, people aren't thinking about you all day, they may be thinking about you for a blip, and he meant this in just such a lovely way of just like, give yourself a break. And then also to just his kind of, look, I was putting videos out there for a year, and people weren't really watching it, and then it kind of came back again. This sense of grounding, essentially, of saying, don't stress. Things will come around. You don't have to be stuck in the moment. I think that was really, really wonderful to hear somebody that is a physio and innovative, and just being very present with how he approaches what he does. So that was wonderful. It was a really nice moment, and I think that was great to hear from, again, as well, physio that's very different in the style of things that he's doing to what I do. It's great. Wonderful.
And lucky last, great way to end. What behind the scenes moment can you reveal to our listeners?
I don't know. We just crack ourselves up laughing with stupidity.
I know. I'll tell you mine. It links back to what I was saying before about how important the tech is, even though all the podcast advisors says, don't get too caught up in your tech, this audio stuff. So we were due to record our episode with Mick Hughes, an incredible physio with an amazing profile and such a lovely guy. And of course, it's the day that my audio won't connect to the computer. And I always hop on early. I'm just that, super organized, want to make sure all the tech's working sort of person. And I troubleshooted everything in my control. Anyway, it wouldn't work. So I had to sit with normal room audio, which I had to remaster on the recording afterwards. I had to use every trick in the book on the digital scale to get my audio sounding good. And then I went to put my microphone away and it wouldn't fit in the box. It's charging box, because it wasn't plugged in properly. So it was just one little millimeter of movement that didn't have the poles touching, and that was why my audio didn't work. And I was so annoyed.
Yeah, this is frustrating. When we recorded with Jan, I was actually down south on a trip with some friends.
Oh, you were on a weekend away, weren't you?
I was, and it was lovely. But I was like, I said to they're essentially family friends. I said to them, like, guys, I've just got to jump away and do this recording. They were like, yeah, that's fine. So I was like, don't worry, I'm just gonna pop down to like a park bench or something. Just get out of the way. I've got my little microphone. I'll set it up. Went out there. couldn't find a park bench that just didn't look like I was homeless. Couldn't find, like, the wind was everywhere, and I was like, oh god, and I'm struggling to connect to the internet. I'd ordered a coffee that I thought was a normal size. They gave me this like large coffee. I was highly caffeinated. I eventually came back into the house and I was like, guys, I'm just gonna sit somewhere. So I ended up like getting into this tiny little corner at the edge of the bedroom, trying to make it look all nice, and sitting there having this kind of being ready to have this conversation with Jian. And Jian's just so chill and so relaxed. And it was
He's
such a nice,
awesome.
like, relaxing conversation that started off with me just being in a high level of anxiety. And then I was just like regulated by him. And by the end, I was like, oh, this is a great place to do it. But yes, the morning of caffeination, anxiety, and getting ready to go on a podcast, it was stress.
It's
But
so
yeah,
classic. How funny.
wonderful.
Oh, well, thank you to our amazing guests that we've had this season. Thanks to each and every one of you who's listened. Season
Yeah,
1
if you
has been
got
a
this far,
blast.
you're amazing.
Yeah.
I hope you've had some
Yeah.
glasses of wine along the way as well. I'm looking forward to future conversations and connecting with more physios out there, and hopefully
We'd
we
love
just
to hear from you. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, if you got recommendations of people that you want to talk to or things you think we need to be talking about, I'm
And
hoping season
the
2.
criteria, of course, isn't famous, in inverted commas, physios. Just physios with an interesting story to tell or interesting careers or
Yeah.
that are insightful. That's what we're about here, right?
Yeah, vulnerable, insightful, joyous. You know,
Mm.
they can.
Passionate.
It's, I guess,
Mm.
any physio. And we'll take anybody. No, and look, I hope that we can start touching on some other topics, and I'd love to hear from people out there. But like, you know, social media, AI, attrition rates in physio, switching professions over to medicine, and all those other things. We're hoping that we can get some people in and discuss it and kind of. They might be things that new grad physios or other physios are coming up to and thinking about, and would love to have like just an honest conversation around it, so it helps. If it helps, then great. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's gonna be great.
Bowie, it's been a delight and a pleasure. I'm excited that it seems like you're going to come back for another season and hang out with me again. So
Yeah.
I'm thrilled
Let's
about
hope.
that.
Awesome. All right, thanks so much, guys. Cheers, guys.
See ya.
See ya.